A, it doesn't sound like it is containing somebody's name, right? So, not a very good variable name. Just because I'm saying it's not a very good variable name, it doesn't mean it's not allowed. It's allowed. It's okay. This is a valid variable. But generally, in normal practice, it's not good to use something like this because it does not describe what is inside. A doesn't tell you what it's going to have. So generally, that is how we create variable names. So on the same principle, the second one also not a very good variable because it just says B. So when somebody listens to the word B, you don't know whether what's the content of that is going to be in terms of variable. If you look at this one, this is terrible. Why? Because if somebody says I have a variable XYZ1, how do you know what is the idea or what are you going to store there as a concept? It's not very good. Okay, so that's why I said terrible. A and B are just some name, but XYZ doesn't sound good at all to me. But it's a valid variable name. Remember, all these are valid variable names. Okay, these are valid variable name, but not appropriate. That's why I said we are going to look at alphanumeric, valid numeric variable names, not necessarily appropriate. So these may not be appropriate. Now here, if you look at age, and we are storing James. So now if you forget about this content and just look at the name of the variable age, what do you expect it to have? Normally, if you're calling a variable name as age, you would expect it to have an age. So instead, if you are putting a name, people will get confused because they are expecting it to. Now that doesn't mean the variable name is invalid. Okay, not wrong. It's wrong. It is correct. The name is valid, but it's inappropriate. So terrible and confusing because when you see A, B, or X, Y, Z, you don't expect any particular thing to be there. But when you see a variable name like age, you will generally expect it to have an age. So instead of that, if you go and put somebody's name, then we have named this variable in a bad way. Okay, this is allowed, but it will work, no issue. It's valid, but it's not appropriate at all. And it's also confusing because when you say age, somebody is going to expect the age to be there. On the same line, address. When you have a variable called address, you will expect it to contain address, not a name. So if you name a variable as address and put somebody's name in there, it's confusing. Again, the word address as a name of a variable is okay, but it's not appropriate here. It's terrible because it's actually containing a name. We are trying to store a name. So because of that, all these labels are valid, but not good enough, not right. I mean, better to avoid them. This again, same issue. You are using a variable name called invalid. Now, this is a valid variable name, starting with an alphabet I and alphabet. So it's a valid name. But inside, if you just look at the variable name invalid, what do you expect it to have? Would you ever expect it to contain a name? No. So that is why it's terrible and confusing as well. So better not to use things like this, even though it's allowed. Same goes here. Again, error may be a reserved word, in which case you can't use, but we don't have a reserved word, so we are saying this is okay. But if you think of the variable name called error, what do you expect it to have? Somebody's name? No. So if you name your variable error and contain somebody's name, this is not right. Remember, these are your choice, right? You are allowed to name your variables. You put your name, whatever name you think is appropriate for that particular variable content, you should put the name. Okay, here we have another one called name, and we are storing name. Now this is okay. When somebody hears of a variable name called name, what do you expect it to have? Name. No issue. But only issue here would be, maybe, name may be a reserved word in some programming language, in which case you can't use a variable name called name. Other than that, it's okay. In our case, it's okay. Now here, so this will be okay variable name because of the reserved word issue. If it is a reserved word, then you will not be able to use it. Otherwise, it's okay. But generally, a name like person name, giving a name like person name is okay. And exactly when you say person name, you understand what you are expecting it to have, right? You can keep the name there. There's no problem. So this is a decent name for this. Or if it is a child's name, you can say child name. Or if it is a friend's name, you can say friend name. You can label your variable anything you want. And labeling, what do you call the requirement is yours. You only you have to, whenever you have to use something, you have to figure out, okay, what am I using this variable for, and give an appropriate name. So that's what I'm trying to show you. Even though names like all these are valid, a name like person name may be good to have for a variable that is going to contain a name. Okay, even name is okay, no problem. But all the others are not very good, even though they are valid variable names. Okay, so that's how we are talking about the alphanumeric variable names and validity of that and appropriate situations for that. What you should be actually using. Now let's look at numeric variables. Names again, same issue. I'm going to use the same set of variable names and store somebody's age this time. Okay, we are going to store age as 27 inside. So this one is there. This is valid, no problem, no problem. In the earlier cases, so inside all these variables, we stored the alphanumeric constant. This time we are storing a numeric constant. Okay, so these are all numeric constants. These are all no issue at all. Okay, as far as the validity is concerned, because all of these are starting with an alphabet, and if anything more, it should be alphabet or numbers. So the rules are all followed in this. But once again, since we are trying to store age, just keeping a variable called a for age, it's not a very good variable name. Even b, same issue. This is terrible. Like I told you, x, y, z, nobody will expect age to be inside that. And again, this is confusing because if you put a variable called name it as name, and then put somebody's age, when you look at the variable name, you don't expect it to contain age. So it's confusing therefore. So better to avoid naming like this. Even address, problem, same problem. You call a variable name as address and you're storing a age. Not good. Okay. Even though these are all valid names, remember. Again, invalid. Like earlier, invalid also valid name. But to keep age, is that name a good name? No, definitely not. Error, same problem. You can't, you're trying to see, remember in all of these we are trying to keep the age. So if you are trying to keep the age, you have to give an appropriate name. So even all of these are correct, but they don't describe what we are going to keep inside. So this is okay variable. You can just say age. When you say age, okay, you expect some age to be there. But if you want to be more specific, you can have something like this percentage. Then you exactly know you are going to keep some person's age. In this case, you can even store some animal's age or I don't know, whatever, something else, some other age even. Whereas if you give your name as more descriptive, like in this case, then when somebody reading the name of the variable exactly knows what that purpose of that variable is. So generally that is what you have to do. And remember, since all of these variables are containing numeric value 27, all these variables will be known as numeric variable. Okay, A, B, X, Y, Z up to percentage will be known as numeric variables. Okay, so this is just to give you what are the valid ones and which are not appropriate, not like these. Okay, I hope you understand that. Now let's go to some proper ones. Okay, this time we are going to put some appropriate names for some variable. So let's go through an example. Suppose you want to keep someone's name. So now we are going to keep a lot of things. Okay, we are going to keep somebody's name, somebody's age, gender, height, weight, address, date of birth, and number of children, and married or not. So let's just take those and let's see examples. So I create a variable called name and put the name. So this is fine, right? You could create a variable called age and put the person's age. No issue. So this is an alphanumeric variable because it contains an alphanumeric content. Age is a numeric variable because it contains numeric content. Then we have a variable called gender to keep whether it is male or female, let's say. So I put female here. Fine, that's okay. Or you can, next one is the height. I can create a variable height in centimeters and put the numeric value here. Then the name itself tells me these values are in centimeters. So you can name your variables like this, height in centimeter. So 145.4 is going to be considered as centimeters, right? Or you can have just a variable called height, and you want to store whatever and also the measure, centimeter in this case. Now, if you are putting cm, this cannot be a numeric value, and therefore height is an alphanumeric variable, okay, because it contains 145.4 centimeters, okay. Then we go to another one, weight. Weight, maybe I can create a variable called wt, if this is good enough, and then I can just store a number. This is a numeric variable, right? Or I can name the variable as weight itself and put the value. I'm just showing you different examples. Now let's put an address. So I can just create one variable called address and put the entire somebody's address. Or if I want to split this and put it into separate pieces, I can do something like this. I can say address 1 and put this part up to the comma maybe as the first address. The second part I can put it into this part, I can put it into another variable called address 2. Why? Because I can't use address 1 again. Each variable name can be used only once. Okay. Address 3, I'm going to put this part. So I can either create a variable called address and put the entire thing, or I can say address 1, address 2, address 3 and just put in different pieces, and I can say address 4, 5 if I want some more. Okay, no issue. So that is address. Then date of birth. Date of birth, I can create a variable called date of birth and put the date. Now date of birth in our case will be alphanumeric constant because this is not a number. No? So because it is not a number, we will be considering date of birth as an alphanumeric variable. Okay, and addresses also generally you will consider this even address 3 as, even though you see a number here, we will be considering this as a alphanumeric because these are codes, no, these are not numbers. So sometimes you might get a 0 in front. So if you get a 0 in front, if you keep it as a numeric, the 0 will be lost. So we want to keep including the 0 because it's a code, it's not a number. We don't want to arithmetically manipulate that. So we, even though it is a number, that ability is there only for numbers. Numbers can be kept as numbers, numeric or alphanumeric. So in this case, we will be keeping this as a generally alphanumeric. Even if you say, no, I want to keep it as numeric, that's okay, no problem. But only thing you have to remember is if you keep this address 3 as numeric, if there is a code which starts with 0, you will not be able to keep because the moment you put the leading zeros will be lost in a numeric value. Okay, right. So date of birth, we have put the create a variable name called date of birth and put that. Or you can say DOB, date of birth, if you want to shorten it. That's also not an issue. But this is your choice actually. You decide on the name. But decide on a decent, reasonable name. Children. Number of children. Maybe I can create a variable called children and put the count, like in this case. Or I can say child count and put 3. Either this or this. I'm just trying to show you different options. Or you can create some other name, which indicates it's the total number of children that you are storing there. So these are numeric variables. Then married or not. You can either create a variable called married and say yes or no. So yes means married, no means not married, right? Or you can create a variable called marital status and say married, single, something like that. So these are all alphanumeric. Okay. So if you look at this, this is name, so numeric, alphanumeric variable. This is number, numeric variable. This is alphanumeric, so alphanumeric variable. This is a number, numeric variable. This cannot be alphanumeric because of the word cm. Therefore, this will be put as a alphanumeric, and therefore height is a alphanumeric variable. This weight and this weight, Wt and Wigst weight, both are numeric variables. Okay, these are alphanumeric variables. This is again alphanumeric. These two are numeric variables. These two are alphanumeric variables, and these are decent names to give for your variables. Okay, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of that. Okay.